The ending of Death Note will always split fans in the middle, no matter who you ask. You either like it and believe it's a good conclusion to the series, or you absolutely hate it and think Light lost to the plot. I've already covered videos regarding the legitimacy of Nier's win against Light, but no matter what, at least we can all agree that Light could have won. It's not as if he was in an unwinnable situation. Arguably, his victory against Nier was far more attainable than his W against L. So, how could Light have won? We're going to go over all the different things that Light could have done in order to make his victory guaranteed. Have you ever played a game where one character just refuses to die? I've been hooked on this one, which is like a full-on fantasy RPG mixed with insane different strategies, and the new update just brought back one of my favorite legendaries of all time, Raid Shadow Legends. Between campaigns, dungeons, clan boss fights, and arena battles, the content just feels endless. The graphics are top tier, especially on PC. And guess what? The Ultimate Death Knight is back. He looks awesome, and you can get him for free right now with the promo code UDKING, new players only. Ultimate Death Knight is no pushover. He's an absolute unit. His too awesome to die passive redirects all single target attacks to himself and heals when enemies heal. His Get Comfy Everyone shields, heals, and debuffs foes with Provoke Fear and Decrease Attack. Overall, he's a top tier pick for both PvE and PvP. Click my link in the description or scan my QR code to get exclusive bonuses. If you download from the App Store and don't use my link or anything, you won't get any of these cool bonuses, which is a legendary of your choice, and 2 epic champions. You will unlock Ultimate Galek, and then when you reach level 15, you'll gain Zargala, one of the strongest support epics to join your team. And more benefits for new players. Pick one of the 6 promo codes: TREEHUGGER for Rurak, GETALICE for Alice, DESERTQUEEN for Tuanarak, MONKEYKING for Sun Wukong, and DEMONSLAYER for Tholin Foulbeard, or UDKING for Ultimate Death Knight himself. Personally, I'd either go for Sun Wukong or Ultimate Death Knight. If I had to choose one though, I'd be choosing Ultimate Death Knight since he's pretty OP. Come play with me on Raid, my username is EventSir, and join my clan Light the Goat, or A22V, and let's see who builds the strongest team. For being honest, there was no need for the mind games. Quite literally, the simplest thing that Light could have done was use the piece of the notebook to write down the names of a good portion of Japan's criminals. Specify in the notebook that they arrive at the Yellow Box warehouse on January 28th and just shoot everyone aside from himself and Mikami. If it was a matter of surveillance, that's totally irrelevant. Aizawa and Ide were suspicious of Light, but that didn't stop him from writing Takada's name down on a piece of the notebook in the backseat of the car. Hiring someone to kill the remnants of the task force and the SBK would have been child's play. But obviously, as to why Light didn't do it, he's egotistical and someone who does things for the literal love of the game. By killing Nier with supposed outside forces, that would make it seem as if he wasn't smart enough to outsmart Nier and beat him. Therefore, he didn't want to stoop so low as to use a hired gun to kill Nier. And in his mind, it would be tasteless as Kira represents justice. Using criminals to aid him would essentially be hypocritical, even though a lot of things that Kira does is hypocritical by nature. This suggestion is more so a joke since Light would never do this, but this is really just showing how easy it could have been to beat Nier had Light let go of his ego for just a bit. Therefore, the real number one suggestion would be actually to attend to Mikami more properly. He is the literal elephant in the room. I'll be doing a broader analysis on how Light lost eventually, but what I can say for sure is that Mikami was a great contributor to his downfall. It was all because Light didn't account for his actions. Mikami was portrayed as the perfect follower of Kira, surpassing even Misa. He was also very intelligent in his own right, as he immediately figured out that Light couldn't move freely after getting on the phone with him. And so he whipped up a scenario that would force Light to remove the wiretap, which allowed him to speak to Takada and Mikami for an extended period of time. But the problem arises after Chapter 88, in which Light primarily communicates with Mikami through Takada. He constantly gives him instructions that take a decent chunk of time to reach him. So why not take that risk and confront him directly? Yes, it is incredibly risky, but truth be told, contacting Mikami indirectly only caused more confusion between the two. And eventually, the task force realizes that Light and Takada were passing notes during their meetings anyway, so it doesn't even matter if Light is somehow caught. If he had maintained direct touch with Mikami, he could have easily told him to stand down once Mello's kidnapping of Takada made the news. This would have prevented Mikami from acting on his own, and thus preventing him from ruining Light's plan. If he had also made the initiative to get in direct contact with Mikami, he could have given him a page from the notebook for emergency uses. This would change Light's endgame plan entirely. Now it would be, have Mikami create a fake notebook that he would use to fool the task force. He'd publicly write down names in front of them, but in actuality Takada was doing the killings at home. This was done via Mikami sending text to her of the names and faces of specific criminals. 2. As planned, have Mikami check the notebook every day for evidence of tampering. Once confirmed, text Takeda, who would then relay the message to Light, which would confirm their plan is set in motion. From here, Light has two options, option A and option B. For option A, Light would just have Mikami bring the real notebook to the Yellow Box warehouse and kill everyone, especially if we assume that this is in scenario. He prevented Mikami from killing Takeda, which led to him accidentally revealing the location of the real notebook to the SBK. Option B, let's say that Light didn't tell Mikami to stand down and not kill Takeda, but still gave him the page of the notebook. He would instruct him beforehand to bring the notebook to the Yellow Box warehouse, but he would also tell Mikami to bring the extra page. He'd then tell Mikami, when you reach the warehouse, write down everyone's name except for mine. Wait 40 seconds, and if nothing happens, use the extra page I gave you. That way, once Mikami realizes the current notebook he holds is a fake, he could just use the other page to kill everyone. Light's victory wouldn't be perfect, but a win is a win nonetheless. But in summary, if Light had just communicated with Mikami more directly and efficiently, he could have won. Once again, all of this could have been resolved if Light was willing to drop his ego. If his mindset were more flexible, he wouldn't be so determined to outsmart Nier and could have dealt with him in numerous ways. Light quite literally had the President of the United States and other world leaders at his disposal. With the power of the notebook, anything was possible. Why didn't he utilize them in order to figure out Nier's location? Rather than have the SBK headquarters be bombed and put on fire, why not just straight up have it carpet bombed? It's quite drastic, but towards the end of the story, Light was desperate and clearly willing to go above and beyond in order to kill Nier. But if that's too flashy, Light could have just forced the President to reveal Nier's identity. With the Shinigami eyes at his disposal, all you'd need is a picture. There's absolutely no way that the president wouldn't have a photo of Nier laying around, considering the fact that he visited the White House numerous times. Again, there's no way that there isn't surveillance film that the president can retrieve, which can be given to Light, who can relay it to Takeda and then give it to Mikami. He would go over the film or picture, stop when he sees Nier, analyze it, write his name down, and boom, Nier gets killed by a heart attack. There's also illustrations of Nier with the drawing too. Nier gets killed by a heart attack. The task force and SBK can be as suspicious as they want, but there's literally nothing that ties Light to the killing of Nier. He's never met him before and doesn't know what he looks like, but if Light really needed a scapegoat, he could honestly set things up and blame it on either Aizawa or Mogi. For the latter, he's already seen Nier's face and was kidnapped by him in a scheme of Nier's, giving him motive to at least hold a grudge. But with Aizawa, he's quite literally the perfect scapegoat, which ties into my next option for how Light could have won. All Light had to do was blame Aizawa and he could have won. It was Aizawa who was the most suspicious of Light and made the effort to travel to Nier. From here, he tells him all the information he knows regarding the Kira case, and even gives up vital info concerning the notebook and the Shinigami Eye deal. It's quite easy to make him a scapegoat, and Light doesn't even have to do much in order to make things work, other than communicate with Mikami directly. Light's endgame plan would change and go like this. 1. Have Mikami bring the notebook as instructed, doesn't matter if it's fake or real. But assuming Mikami acts on his own and writes Takeda's name, it'll be fake, which is still fine. Mikami arrives at the Yellow Box warehouse and begins to write names, except he specifies the characteristics of the person and places their name next to them. So for example, Nate Rivers, small child with white hair and PJs on, etc, etc. He then takes a photo of these names and sends them to Misa, which Light arranged by getting Mikami in contact with her. Even though Misa's memories of the notebook are erased, she's still loyal to a fault and will assist Light. A memory wiped Misa literally said that even if she found out Light was Kira, she'd just love him even more. 2. Mikami will come in and be apprehended, but at this point it's already wrapped. As Nier checks the notebook, expecting Light's name to be in it, something changes. Everyone's name is written down except for Aizawa. Just a few seconds before, Nier proclaimed that whoever name is not written down must be Kira. Those were Nier's own words. For him to go back on them would just make him look untrustworthy or well stupid. Nier would be confused, but at the same time he's an overthinker. He was legitimately questioning Light's bluff regarding on the legitimacy of both notebooks present in the Yellow Box warehouse, which gave Light enough time to try write Nier's name down. Although all evidence previously pointed to Light as Kira, his name wasn't written down. Even if Nier has his doubts, in the eyes of everyone else, Light has been cleared. Nier would most likely cut the meeting short to return to HQ and review the meeting, and whether or not he takes both notebooks is up in the air. I doubt he would even do that since the task force would likely distrust Nier now. especially Aizawa, who's been framed. Even if he does seize them, it literally doesn't matter, because once the meeting's over, Light's gonna Leroy Jenkins it back home and kill everyone with an extra sheet of the notebook that he stored for safekeeping, or alternatively using the piece of the notebook hidden in his watch to kill Nier, and then later on recover a page from the notebook to kill the task force in SBK. No matter what happens, the moment that Light is cleared of suspicion after blaming Aizawa, he's won. Everyone is as good as dead. He possibly can free Mikami from prison, but even if he doesn't, he can just kill him too and find a replacement. Light would be the sole victor and have his perfect victory, and it wouldn't have been possible if not for blaming Aizawa. Lastly, there's a solution that Light could have taken, which might have been even more simpler than killing Nier, which is, well, do nothing. Nier set up the entire meeting to coerce Light into making a big move so he could catch him on the act. The meeting had to be on January 28th because Nier set it up that way, via tampering with the notebook. Light obviously knew Nier's plan, but his ego and lust for battle clouded his judgment. He wanted to kill Nier and wanted to prove that he was better than him. If Light had just said, "Nah, I'm good, I don't want to meet you," then the Yellow Box Warehouse situation literally never happens. Nier can't force Light into meeting him, and even if it looks suspicious, who cares? As long as there's no evidence to convict Light, he would tell Nier to screw off, or just say he'd like to meet him on another day. Even if the Yellow Box Warehouse meeting still happens, Light could just do nothing and not have Mikami show up. Nier's strategy only works if Light tries to kill everyone, but if nothing happens, then Nier will be completely thrown off. Light could simply create another plan to kill Nier, and would likely have a higher success rate as opposed to his endgame plan. Alternatively, he could just make the ideal to go to the warehouse, leave, and kill everyone after, but none of these would work. Why? Because Light's ego wouldn't allow it. To take the eyes or to even do nothing would be seen as distasteful in Light's eyes. He just had to show his superiority to Nier, which is a major factor that contributed to his loss. If Light wasn't such an egomaniac and was able to humble himself a little, beating Nier would have been child's play. But then the story wouldn't be interesting and competitive, so it makes sense as to why Obata gave Light such a fatal flaw. With all that being said, this covers all the possible ways that Light could have won. However, these are the only ones I've presented, what I've thought of. And I know you guys are a creative bunch, so comment down below some other possible methods that Light could have exploited in order to win. I'd love to see your creativity in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Take care. And remember guys, make sure to go download Raid Shadow Legends in the description or use the QR code. Thank you.